It's time for Success in Real Estate with Frankie Griffin, owner and broker in charge of the Palmetto Success Team, certified residential specialist, accredited buyer representative, military relocation professional, real estate appraiser, and author of Success in Real Estate. If you are interested in buying or selling a home, investing in real estate, or having your home appraised, you will enjoy Success in Real Estate. Now, here's Frankie Griffin.
All right, good morning, everybody. This is Frankie Griffin on Success in Real Estate. Thank you so much for joining us today. I've got I think, a great show lined up because I got several things I want to talk about. Things such as what's driving our real estate market today. You may be a little bit surprised at what we're going to be talking about along those lines, and several other things. But as always, I certainly want to make sure we have the phone lines open for any of our listeners. If you have any questions or any comments, love to hear from you. Excuse me. You can give me a call. The number in studio is 799-8255. 799-8255, and I'd love to talk to you. And I do just want to go ahead and say that before I even get into the show, I was listening to Kevin Cohen coming in this morning, made some kind of reference about real estate was not nearly as a exciting subject to talk about as stripping, which I thought was just I can't think of anything more exciting than real estate, Mr. Cohen. So just thought I'd throw that out there. But anyway, giving you a hard time. But, Kevin does such a great job with this show. I know he's cutting up, but he does such a great job with this show. The programming is just amazing. And to sit here and watch how this show has just built on a steady basis, day by day, more and more listeners every day. And I've had several of my real estate partners that do some marketing and advertising here tell me just how much they are getting out of it. The marketing is really helping them out a lot. So I would just tell you, especially if you have a small business or a large business, get in touch with Kevin. Giving him a little kudos right now, but give Kevin a call. Kevin Cohen, he's doing a great job for the local area here in Columbia anyway, right here on the point. But back to real estate, because this is so exciting, and I do love it. I'd have a passion for real estate. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. But as I sort of led off, one of the things I've started noticing here in the last few weeks, I guess, but then yesterday I actually read an article that was put out by the National Association of Realtors that indicated it's these high price or very pricey homes, and when they say pricey, they're talking about $500,000 or more in sales price is really what's driving the market right now. Certainly wouldn't expect that probably with the economy still kind of a little bit sluggish. But that's what's sort of driving things right now. The high-priced homes are moving very quickly. In fact, I was out at Lake Murray doing an appraisal just yesterday and was talking to the agent, and they actually got in, I think the house was on the market for less than a week, and it was well over $1 million. I'll just tell you that, but they had 2 offers in less than 1 week on the market. And then he was sharing with me another agent that had a similar home on Lake Murray, well over $1 million. He also got 2 offers. So 2 over $1 million homes are dealing with multiple offers right now. Which I think is a good thing, because that has sort of been the sluggish part of the real estate market over the last few years. Really, anything over about $150,000 was kind of hard to sell. But now things are starting to pick up a little bit. And another statistic that I saw in this article, which we are certainly seeing, we're seeing home prices have actually gone up 11% since last year, or over 2013. Home prices increased 11%, whereas the number of listings or homes that came on the market is only up 2.5%. And what this is doing is actually causing a shortage in our inventory, the supply. The supply is not what we are accustomed to right now. We got somewhat of a shortage of houses on the market. And when that happens, of course, anytime you have short supply and you still have the demand, that's going to continue driving these prices up. So if you are thinking about buying a house, I would just tell you it's time to get off that fence right now. We need to go ahead and start looking, because I'm pretty sure if the trends hold true from the last several years, we're just going to see these prices are going to continue to go up all the way through the summer. So again, if you want to buy a house or thinking about buying a house, I think now is going to be a great time to do it. And obviously, that's what we do. We would love to help you with that. We've got a team, again, the Palmetto Success Team. We are here to help you with whatever you need. I got my partner, Stacy Starnes. We've got a buyer's agent, Ashley Jeffcoat, and both of them are awesome. Do a great job. I know Stacy's, in fact, she's getting ready to do some inspections on a house we're getting ready to close just this morning, I believe it is. In fact, I know it is. Day is Friday, isn't it? Yes. Got some inspections going on today, so it's all kind of good stuff going on. We would love to help you, though. You can certainly check us out on our website if you want to try to find get our email address, our phone numbers, contact information. Just go to my website, which is www.frankiegriffin.com. frankiegriffin.com, and there you'll find all our contact information and a lot of other information while I'm on the website. If you'd like, you can certainly go on the site and just look for houses. You can search the multiple listing service from my website. We do have that link there. So I'm very proud of this website. It's we've had it actually updated, so pretty current right now. We've got all our archived radio shows, real estate news. There's a lot of information about buyers. There's a lot of stuff for sellers. So I think you'll find it to be very informative. So please check out the website, www.frankiegriffin.com. And right now it is time for our mortgage update with our mortgage go-to gal, Erica Hill West. How you doing, Miss Erica?
I'm doing wonderful, Frankie.
And you always are.
Most of the time, yeah.
Well, I happened to notice on Facebook, if I'm not mistaken, you got a closing in Sumter?
Today, yes, with somebody you know.
Yeah, I saw that. And cousin of mine. And I was starting to fuss at her on why she was buying a house without me helping her. But then again, she is a real estate agent, so I guess she thinks she doesn't need me.
That's right.
Well, I know you've been very, very busy, and for the listeners out there, if you're thinking about buying a house, I strongly encourage you, give Erica a call. Just talk to her. And Erica, I know you'd say the same thing, but you need to talk to at least 2 or 3 lenders and see who's got the best deal, the best programs, and can put something together that would best fit what you're trying to accomplish. And
absolutely.
And I know, in fact, I'd be shocked if you talked to Erica and went anywhere else, honestly, and I say that sincerely. But you do a whole lot, I know, for me and my clients, Erica, and I really appreciate that. And I know you probably got some things you wanted to touch on, but I have a couple questions I wanted to run by you real quick.
Sure.
Because we still keep seeing some of this stuff pop up where buyers, once you get approved for a loan, and I know you've been preaching this too, once you've been get approved, you got to stop charging and buying stuff on credit before closing.
You should.
We had an issue with that this past week.
Oh no.
Yeah. Kind of sad, but they went they decided they needed new furniture, the buyers did, to go in their new house, and charged it, and it affected their credit to where they could not get the loan.
Yes.
Are you seeing that very much now?
Not with my clients. But we have a form within our loan package that I go over with them, and it's called the do's and don'ts when applying for a mortgage. And I go over it with them, and it specifically says, do not overuse credit during this time, and do not open any new credit.
Mm-hmm.
You need to continue to use the credit that you have normally, which means if you use the credit card to pay for gas, continue to do that. Don't go out and charge $11,000 to your credit card. Don't buy a new car.
They wouldn't let me charge $11,000 to my credit card.
Well, me neither. But there are some people that do. And it's very hard to get across to them that it's not just that you're affecting your eligibility, but you do not yet own that house. And that's something that I keep telling people. Do not purchase anything until you are the actual owner of that house. And that happens when you go to the attorney's office, you sign your papers, and they hand you your keys. If you want to leave straight from the closing table and go to Rooms to Go or go to Ethan Allen or wherever you want to go, that is totally fine. But do not do it prior to closing.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that was the biggest thing I wanted to, just because it was something we had to deal with. But we'll work it out one way or another. But I'm sure you've got some stuff going on, or I assume. So, what? Any new news going on in mortgage right now?
Well, we saw rates go down a little bit yesterday, which is great for spring.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, tiny. They've been kind of like bouncing, if you will, between the high fives and the low to mid fours, and we had been in the low to mid fours for a week or two, and now it just dropped back into the high threes, which is great news for a 30-year fix. The other thing that I wanted to touch on, which this is very taboo to most people, just because they got a bad rap a long time ago, but I'm not a big fan of an FHA program, only because it's very expensive. Mm-hmm. The mortgage insurance is very expensive for the life of the loan. However, 99.9% of the people that call me, that is the program that currently meets their needs. What people don't really know is that there is an FHA arm that's available. It's a 5-to-1 arm that is pretty great. The only reason why I recommend it for an FHA product is most people, even if they're in the same house, they're not going to be in the same mortgage in 5 years. A lot of people don't believe me, and I'm like, most of my clients, I hear from them. We do something about every 2 to 3 years. Okay. Where the refinancing, we're changing from a 30 to a 20 or a 30 to a 15 or a 15 to a 10 or whatever it is. If people, if life circumstances happen to everybody about every 2 to 3 years, whether you start earning more income or your income goes down or your children go to college or you have children, your needs change quite frequently. Most people don't realize it, but they do, especially with their house and their finances. So most people don't stay in a mortgage, especially if they're using the FHA product, for more than 5 years.
Yeah. Well, the average homeowner will sell their house and buy another one every 5 to 7 years.
Mm-hmm. It's true. And so, with an FHA arm right now, it's a 5-to-1 arm. The interest rate's about 2.75.
Mm-hmm.
It stays 2.75, and it's amortized as if it was a 30-year loan for 5 years. It's a 115 arm, which means that it can adjust once a year after your 5th year, up or down 1%, for a max of 5 points from the original start date. So even if you were in that house for 7 years,
mm-hmm.
the highest that your rate would ever be would be, if rates were going up and the market wasn't coming down, would be 4.75. That's not much more than it is right now.
Really?
Do you see? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Now that you talk about it.
Yeah, and so it's one thing if people are having to get into an FHA loan, I would encourage them to look at all the options and make your loan officer do a little bit of work. Let them show you how much you can save in 5 years by doing an ARM at 2.75 instead of all the interest that you would be paying on a 30-year mortgage at 4 1/8 or 4% when you're really only going to be in that house for probably 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
Or in that mortgage product. So, and I would love to talk to anybody if they have questions about them. And the only reason why I recommend them is just because how expensive FHA mortgage insurance is.
Yeah, it's very expensive, and I'm just assuming that the reason FHA is so popular due to the loan to value.
That's correct, and the loan to value is same on an ARM.
Okay.
Well, you can still put 3.5% down.
Well, that works good. And Erica, we got about maybe a minute and a half or so left before we have to go to a break. But another quick question, because you hear a lot of people say instead of making your mortgage payment once a month, if you split it up and make 2 payments a month, half of it on the 1st and half of it on say the 15th, does that really help much in terms of paying off the loan?
It does. It does. However, I think that the idea is that if you pay it twice a month, then you have one extra full payment that you're making a year to your mortgage. However, when you split it up into a biweekly payment or even a bi-monthly payment, that portion of that payment is still a portion of it's still going to interest.
Yeah.
And so I recommend that people, instead of doing biweekly or bi-monthly, if they would take their monthly payment and divide it by 12 and save that much over the course of 12 months, and at the end of the year, make a principal-only payment in the amount of their entire monthly mortgage payment, you would see your principal go down. You'd probably shave about 6 years off your 30-year mortgage.
Awesome. Well, that makes a lot of sense. We got about 30 seconds left, Erica, but how can we get in touch with you?
You can reach me on my cell phone. It's 803-528-5019. You can search for me on Facebook. Just search for the Mortgage Go-To Gal, and please like my page. Or you can email me at ewest@mortgagenetwork.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Erica. Hope you have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Andy I apologize, can't be with us today. He did call me this morning. He's tied up in court, so I guess we had to excuse him for that. But anyway, so Andy's not with us, but I do have a horror story I think I want to share. In fact, I think I'm going to share it. But this is a situation where you've got, in fact, this was about an $800,000 home. And the buyer went in to look at it with their agent. And this particular home also has a basement. Very nice home, obviously for $800,000. It should be a nice home. But they could tell when they went down in the basement, which it wasn't finished. It was just a concrete pad. That's all it was down in the basement. But they could tell where the concrete had been replaced. It was not original to the home. You could see where it had been cut out, tore out, and then another pad poured in. Well, that was very obvious to see. The buyer saw it. The agent saw it. But yet there was nothing in terms of disclosure from anybody as to what the problems were with this particular house. And the reason that's an issue, in South Carolina, we do have the South Carolina Property Condition Disclosure Law, which does require any homeowner selling their home must disclose any known defects with their house. In fact, the way the law reads now, even if it's a major defect that has been fixed or repaired, then you have to disclose that also. So there's some disclosing that has to go on. Well, the bottom line is these buyers eventually bought this house. And soon after moving in, they just happened to be talking to their neighbor. And the neighbor told them that they were really kind of surprised that the sellers were able to even sell the house, given all the flooding issues they have with that basement. Of course, obviously this comes as quite a surprise to the new buyers, but as time went on, and a short time, then a couple of months, it started. They got some rain, and sure enough, their basement flooded, and they had no knowledge of this, no idea about it, and the reason I wanted to really bring this up is for this reason. When you're walking around looking at a house, especially if you're the buyer, and I'm also talking to buyer agents too. You have to. You kind of got to keep your eyes wide open here, and you can't turn a blind eye to the obvious either. But when you can obviously see some work has been done, repair work of some nature, then I do think it's an agent's obligation, is their due diligence requirement to start asking some questions here. We can see, or it appears that there's some work done in this basement. It looks like the concrete has been freshly poured. What's going on here? I mean, why did you have to do that? And then start digging into this thing. And in fact, I would take it as far as to insist on knowing who the contractor was that did this work, so I can go talk to the contractor, find out exactly what they're saying the problem was, and what exactly they did to repair or fix the problem. But none of this happened in this case, and this is turning into a lawsuit. The buyers have filed a class action lawsuit against pretty much everybody, the seller, the listing agent, and their own agent, their own buyer's agent. Due to a lack of due diligence is basically what's being charged here. So, and again, these things can be fairly easily determined if you're just sort of paying attention. But sometimes you just get so tunnel visioned, and especially when you're looking at buying a new house, all you're looking for is you don't really want to see anything bad. Maybe sometimes we kind of bypass things or ignore things that could be a red flag. So you certainly don't want to do that. Make sure you're asking your agent when you see stuff that needs some work or has been worked on, and you can usually tell it. You can usually see that something's been repaired here. Then start asking these questions and make your agent find out what's going on. That's the only way you're going to find out in a lot of cases, and that's unfortunate. But as these buyers found out, you can't rely on somebody else all the time. That's for sure. Well, that's the horror story, and I want to just touch on this from a little different angle right now. Because when you hire, when I say you, if you're the buyer or seller for that matter, and you hire a real estate agent to represent you, this is a legal relationship. What you're entering into is what we call an agency relationship, which is also considered a fiduciary relationship, which also carries fiduciary or legal obligations that the agent owes back to you as the client. There's 6 of these duties, and I'm not going to have time to get into all 6 of them. But one of them is due diligence, and your agent has to go out and making sure that you're getting the house you're buying, assuming you're buying a house. And this is one of the things we like to do, not just like to do, we do it at the Palmetto Success Team. But if you're buying a house, in the contract of sale, at least the standard contracts you typically see around the Midlands here, the buyer is going to receive a 10-day due diligence period. And during that time, what you typically see happen is a home inspection, a heating and air inspection, and possibly a termite inspection or to get the CL 100 letter. Well, 10 days and 10 business days, that's quite a long time just for those 3 things, because I can usually get all those knocked out in one day, all at one time. So it's really not that big a deal, and especially in the time frame that's allotted. Well, there's a reason you've got 10 business days, and there's a lot more that should be going on than just these inspections. Number one, I just feel like it's my responsibility as the buyer's agent to utilize this time to make sure my buyer is in fact buying what they think they're buying. In other words, you see in the multiple listing service, the house will reflect the amount of square footage, which is that's a very big deal. It's very important, especially in terms of value. So we got to make sure that whatever the reported square footage is, that's in fact the correct square footage, because you don't want to overpay for something that you don't need to overpay for. And so I personally go out and measure every house for my buyer. Now, obviously, I do it. If I list a house for sale, I'm going to measure it there too. But I also measure houses for my buyer. I got to make sure that my buyer's getting what they think they're getting. And I'll just give you a real quick example here. Say, for example, in the MLS, it might be advertised as 2,200 square feet. But then we eventually then we go ahead and close on the house. We buy the house, and at some point after you buy it, we get the house measured, and now we find there's only 2,000 square feet. Well, that's a 200 square foot difference. And I will say, if you just look at 200 square feet in terms of area, it may not seem like that much, but 200 feet's a big deal. For example, if the house is priced, and we'll just say conservatively at $100 a square foot, and you've got 200 feet missing, then that equates to about $20,000. So it's possible that you could actually be paying $20,000 for something that doesn't even exist. So those are the kind of things that we like to do at the Palmetto Success Team. We just want to make sure our clients are protected. And I will just tell you one other quick area we do verify are the schools. The last thing we want our buyer to do is move in thinking they're going to get to send their child to a particular school and then find out it's not zoned for the school they were hoping to send their child to, and that's very disappointing. So, again, all these things, excuse me, we're going to verify this for you. We work for you. We represent your best interest, and that's just what we do. I was looking at an article yesterday evening that listed 3 turn-ons for buyers. When they're looking at houses, there's 3 things that really turn buyers on. And then they also listed 5 things that will really turn a buyer off very quick. And quite frankly, they kind of go hand in hand. But let's look at what turns on a buyer when they're looking at your house. Number 1 is curb appeal. Obviously, if they're riding down the road, something needs to catch their attention or grab their attention. And there's all kind of things you can do here, obviously, depending on the property. But at a minimum, you certainly want to make sure the driveway's clean, blow it off, sweep it off. The sidewalks, same thing. And I really might recommend, if you don't have one, maybe you can borrow a pressure washer and pressure wash the concrete. It really makes it look good to get all the kind of grime and grit off the concrete. Make it stand out, make it look good. And then, quite frankly, the exterior of the house, a lot of times you'll find really needs some pressure washing. It'll really make the house look good, make a huge difference, and it's so inexpensive to do something like that. They also recommend maybe planting some fresh flowers, especially this time of the year. Springtime's a great time to get some new flowers out there, maybe add some color to the yard, makes it look real good. And I'll tell you one other thing that's very inexpensive that makes a huge difference is just fresh pine straw. Put them in your flower beds, and I've even had a few clients that they had no flower beds. None at all. But we just took pine straw and put it where a flower bed would be, and it actually looked pretty good. Even though there was no flowers in it, it still looked good. Kind of cut the yard up a little bit and made it look a lot better than as if nothing was there. So that's the first thing. I'd say curb appeal. The second thing they recommend is space. Again, if you want to turn the buyer on, they're looking for space. And I really haven't given this a lot of thought, but it makes a lot of sense. But it said in this article that for most people, they're looking to move up. They're looking for more room when they decide to buy another house. So it's really important to make sure when your house is being shown, you do create the space. Get rid of the clutter is primarily what they're talking about. And if you need to put some stuff in storage, then maybe you need to do that for a short time. But get it out of there so we can create that space that a buyer might be looking for. Then the third turn on that buyers are looking for, and I can tell you this is so true, they're looking for updates. And in fact, buyers today, not only are they looking for updated properties, they expect the property to be updated. If you still have the 1970s shag carpet in the house and the pink toilets and the pink tubs and the pink bathroom tile floors, and I'm telling you, you're going to have almost impossible to sell that house anywhere near what you might hope to get for it. People or buyers today want to buy a house and have it move-in ready. That's what they're looking for. Really, about the only segment of buyers you're going to find that might be interested in something that might be, we might say, is a fixer-upper, would be like a first-time buyer, somebody just getting started. This is their first house. They don't have a lot of money to buy or to pay for a house anyway, or don't want to spend a lot of money right now. But that's not going to make up the largest market share of buyers. Most of them are experienced homeowners, and when they sell their home and looking for another home, they expect it to be move-in ready. So I really encourage you to take a look at that. And one of the best ways to gauge your house, and I do this with a lot of my clients, and I'm talking about my seller clients, we'll actually go look at some houses that are currently for sale right there in their neighborhood, and so they can see what their competition is. I think it's important for you to see, based on what you've priced your house at. I mean, if you're going to price it commensurate with what other property owners are pricing theirs, then you got to make sure your house looks just as good or updated as much as your competition's is. Or again, you stand a little chance of actually selling the house. And then I got a couple minutes left, so I'm going to hit, I hope, pretty quickly, 5 turnoffs for the buyer. So things that will turn the buyer off very quickly. Number 1 is overpricing the house. That's number 1. Highly recommend that you have the house appraised. I know real estate agents can do their market analysis and come pretty close to it or very close to it. Some agents are very good at doing that. Some agents still need a little help with it, to be quite frank. But I'm going to tell you, if you spend $350 on an appraisal, you're going to find that's going to serve you huge. You can actually use it as a marketing tool, so that way buyers cannot try to argue you down and try to convince you your house is not worth what you're saying it is, because you've got an appraisal now. So that sort of takes the pricing out of that negotiating. And so anytime you can do that, that's a big deal. Number 2 is smells, and that's another biggie. If the buyer walks in the house and it doesn't smell good, I've had a lot of buyers, we don't even leave the foyer. They just said, Frankie, just turn around, let's go. We've had enough of that. What causes smells? All kind of things. Not keeping the house clean, maybe got pets inside, smoking, all that kind of stuff. Huge turnoff. Number 3, the clutter, which we kind of talked about. The 4th thing was deferred maintenance. We talked about that just a second ago. We got to update and keep your property looking good. And lastly, dark and dated decor. That turns off buyers. But anyway, we're out of time. Thank you so much for listening today. And I'll tell you, next Friday is going to be our Easter show. So we're going to put real estate aside and talk about something very important. So don't miss out. Thank you for listening to Success in Real Estate. I'm Frankie Griffin on The Point.